When you're first realizing that you're dealing with a narcissistic person and you first start to understand what that means, this can be a very confusing time. And so in this video, I want to talk about the things that you can expect so that you can prepare yourself for how a narcissist will react when you figure them out. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. First of all, I want to define what it is you've figured out when you discover the person you're with is a narcissist. I know for me, the first time this happened to me, I didn't really have a word for it. I didn't understand that it was narcissism. I just suddenly understood that somebody that I trusted was actually playing mind games with me. And of course, this wasn't the first time this happened to me. The next time it happened, it did click that this was narcissism. And that had a completely different meaning to me, or I should say a deeper meaning, because I understood more how hopeless it was to try to fix it, and also how much more serious of a problem it was, or how much more permanent of a problem it was than what I had figured out before. I think when you figure out that you're with a narcissist or you're dealing with a narcissist, what you've really figured out is that this person is not who they have pretended to be. They don't feel the way about you that you assumed they did. Like maybe they don't really love you, or maybe if this is a work relationship of some kind, they don't really view you with the respect you thought they did, or maybe they don't care about you the way that they've told you they did, or maybe that they have lied about what they're able to provide you with or what their intentions are. Basically, there's something about them that's fraudulent. That's not what you thought, and you have discovered this. You've realized that they've been misrepresenting themselves, they've been lying to you, manipulating you, and the light bulb's gone on, and you finally realized it. I think a more black and white version of this would be if you've caught them in a really solid, like black and white lie, like they've been cheating on you, or they have been hiding things from you that you can look at in black and white, things that are really tangible. But it can also be a little more subjective, like maybe they've just been really manipulative or just a little dishonest about the way they feel, or they've been playing mind games with you. But anyway you cut it, there's a trust that's broken here, and there's a realization that you've been betrayed. But I think before I go on into a whole list of ways that narcissists will react to your discovery of their fraudulence, it's important to understand how they look at it. And I could make a whole video on this, but I'm just going to briefly go over it. I think it's important to understand their viewpoint because I think it helps us to understand how potentially dangerous they can be because of the way they look at it. When we catch them in a lie, or we realize that they've been playing games with us, it's easy to project the way we look at these kinds of things onto them and to think that they're going to perceive this as being caught doing something bad. Like they're going to have to fess up. They're going to have to take accountability. The game's up. They've been caught. This is not how they will view it, or not how very many of them will view it, because most narcissists that are playing games with you and manipulating you and presenting themselves as something they're not, they aren't really looking at it that way. They feel entitled to everything that they've been doing to you. They look at you as an object that they own. They look at you as something that they have a right to use for however it benefits them. They look at you as someone that owes them undying loyalty. They look at you as someone who owes it to them to believe their lies, even though they know that they're lying to you. If you really cared about them, you're supposed to believe those lies. And it doesn't matter whether or not these lies are true. And it doesn't matter whether or not these lies are harming you. You're just supposed to believe them if you really cared about them. You owe that to them. When you have this realization that you've been lied to and manipulated, when you have this realization that they are not what you thought they were, they don't have the attitude of, oh, I've been caught. They have the attitude of, oh, you have turned on me. They look at you as someone who has betrayed them by changing your viewpoint. You once were under their control. You once were loyal. You once were someone that did what they wanted and listened to them and believed in them. And now suddenly you're not. They see themselves as the victim of this. They see you as a traitor. No matter how unfair and crazy that might seem, that is how they see it. Because like I just said, they don't view you as an autonomous person with your own needs and experiences and viewpoints and feelings. They view you as an object that they own. They are entitled to treat you however they need to treat you to get what they need out of you. And now you don't work anymore. You're not functioning the way you're supposed to. You're the one that's turned on them. And when this happens, they feel kind of a sense of desperation because they've lost control. And this can turn them into a completely different person. Not someone who feels like they've been caught doing something bad, but as somebody who suddenly feels like they've been betrayed and they need to defend themselves at all costs. You are taking control away from them, control they feel entitled to, and they will stop at nothing to take that control back. So all of the ways that a narcissist reacts to being exposed or to you suddenly seeing them in a clearer light are all things they're doing to regain control of you. That's the bottom line. So the first thing that you might experience is a smear campaign. When the narcissist starts to feel like you're onto them, they are going to run around and start telling everybody that you're crazy, or maybe they'll start telling people that they're worried about you. You don't seem like yourself lately. Or they might just start lying about you and telling people that you're cheating on them or you're stealing things from them or whatever. They're going to run around telling people whatever they have to in order to make themselves look like the victim, in order to discredit you so that when you try to tell people your story, people already think that you're making things up. People have already been told not to trust you. And it's also a distraction to distract from the things that they're doing to you. And because the way that narcissists think and operate is just so deviant from how normal people present themselves, how normal people treat people, the truth that you're trying to tell people is often going to sound much crazier than what the narcissist is telling people about you. So it's going to be easier for people to believe what the narcissist is saying, even though those are the lies, than it is for people to believe what you're saying, even though you're telling the truth. Because what you're trying to tell people, you might not even have the words to explain what's happening to you or what this person has done to you. And if you do find the words, it can be really hard to understand or believe what you're saying. And so narcissists will start smear campaigns to protect their own reputation. And this can be very effective. This is a way of regaining control, not necessarily of you, but regaining control of the narrative, regaining control of their reputation. They might not be able to control your perception, but they can still control the perception of everyone else and the way that other people perceive you. When they embark on a smear campaign, it might feel like they're trying to ruin your life, but narcissists are not thinking about you. This is never about you when we're talking about narcissists. This is about the narcissist. The narcissist is doing this because they feel like they have to defend themselves from you, the real victim in all this, right? You're the actual victim, but they feel like they have to defend themselves from the truth of what you might tell people. And so they conduct a smear campaign to protect and control their own reputation. And they don't care how this affects you because they see you as the traitor. You're the one that doesn't believe in them anymore. And it doesn't matter if they were actually lying to you. You were supposed to keep believing in them anyway. Another way that narcissists react to you figuring them out is they will try to confuse you. You were confused before, and once you figured out that they were not who you thought they were, they will just try to confuse you again or confuse you back under control. They might gaslight you, or they might convince you that all the things that have gone wrong or the ways that they've manipulated you are your fault, Or maybe they'll try to tell you that they were doing it for your own good. Maybe they'll try to convince you that you're overreacting, or that you're imagining things, or that your point of view is unfair to them. They might try to turn it into a situation where you're giving up on them, just this one small little thing that you found out about them and you're ready to just throw the whole relationship away. You don't even care about them anymore. They knew that they could never trust you. They knew you were going to let them down someday. They knew that you weren't who you told them that you were. I mean, they can just turn the whole thing around where they paint you as the bad guy. And in a lot of instances, they've actually convinced themselves of this. Like I said, they really feel like you're the one who's betrayed them because you were such a loyal follower. You believed in them. You bought into their act and their narrative, and now suddenly you don't anymore. It doesn't matter to them that they were actually being fraudulent or lying to you. That doesn't matter to them. That is not a reason for you to stop believing them because you didn't believe them or believe in them because they were telling you the truth. You believed in them because you owe that to them, because you're supposed to believe in them. And the truth doesn't factor into this at all. So the fact that you've now suddenly stopped believing in them is nothing more than treachery. You've just betrayed them. And so some of the ways that they will try to confuse you are things that they really actually believe themselves, that they've convinced themselves of. And that can make their arguments really convincing and way more confusing. I have likened it to the feeling of somebody sticking an egg beater in your brain and just blending your brains up till you can't think straight anymore. This is one reason that no contact or extremely minimal contact is so important, because sitting there talking to the narcissist for even a minute can really set you back as far as the clarity that you've gained. Some of them are really good at reconfusing you when you think you've got it all figured out. Some of them know just what to say to make you question yourself and doubt yourself and wonder if you really are just imagining everything. Another way that a narcissist might react when you figure them out is to just start begging and pleading and promising to change. Some of them might seem completely heartbroken, beside themselves, on their knees with tears streaming down their face, telling you how much you mean to them and how sorry they are. Of course, they'll never really tell you exactly what they're sorry for, just that they're generally sorry for everything, because they will very rarely admit to specifically what they've done to you, but they'll just put on this big histrionic act of how sorry they are and how they can't live without you and you can't give up on them now that they need you more than any time they've ever needed you before. When a narcissist is crying and distraught and not themselves, it might seem extremely convincing. They might really seem very brokenhearted. And that's because sometimes what you're seeing really is genuine. They really are that upset, but it's not because they're heartbroken. It's not because they miss you. It is because they've lost control. Narcissists don't really have broken hearts because they have such strong defense mechanisms against allowing people into their hearts in the first place. So they don't really have broken hearts. They have broken egos. When they lose control of you, this is really upsetting, and some of them will become, honestly, extremely distraught, and it might appear to be a broken heart, but really they're just absolutely freaked out that they've lost control of somebody that they used to be able to control. So when they're crying and begging and pleading on their knees and they seem so upset and distraught, they might really be feeling those feelings, but it's nothing good for you. It's no sign that they're going to change. And if you go back to somebody that has abused you, who is now acting so sorry and so heartbroken, once they regain control of you, they're not going to feel distraught anymore. But now they're going to graduate into, okay, I'm going to make you pay now for trying to get away from me. I'm going to make you pay. I'm going to punish you for doing that to me and for humiliating me by making me get on my knees and cry and beg to you. So don't make the mistake of thinking that someone who has abused you is now truly sorry for what they've done. And I should also say that sometimes these crocodile tears are completely manufactured. I mean, like I was saying that some narcissists really are as distraught as what you're seeing, but of course some of them might just be completely faking it and pretending because they know, or maybe they guess, that you are heartbroken, that this is really, really difficult for you. You're sad, you miss them. This is a nightmare for you. So when you see them crying and upset and saying all the things that you've been waiting for years for them to say, you project your own heartbreak onto them. And it's really, really hard to just walk away from that because of how much you're hurting. They know that. So it's not really that hard for them to just pretend to be sad and beside themselves. And it's really, really easy to give into the temptation of just taking them back and giving them another chance. Don't project your broken heart onto someone who has shown you time and time and time again that they don't care about you. Don't project your broken heart onto somebody who has the mentality of an abusive person. That person doesn't think the way you do. They are not sorry for what they've done. They don't look at the loss of the relationship the same way that you do. Some narcissists will win you back just so that they can turn around and dump you again. This is all about control. It has absolutely nothing to do with love or trust or second chances. Don't forget that. Another way that narcissists might react when you figure them out is to start threatening you and harassing you. So they might say things to you like, you'll never see your kids again, or you won't get a dime from me, or you'll be homeless. Or if it's a work situation, maybe they'll threaten you with telling potential employers lies about you, or maybe they'll just make you feel like nobody else will ever hire you. A narcissist might also just harass you. They might text you constantly, call you constantly, just trying to wear you down, trying to regain control. So these threats and these harassments are about control, like everything else is. If a narcissist or some abusive, controlling person is threatening you with things like, you'll never see your kids again, you'll never find a job again, I would ask you to stop and question these things that they're saying, because narcissists are really good at presenting a lot of false threats that they can't follow up on, or I should say empty threats, I guess. Threats that really aren't true. You know, yeah, you're going to be able to find another job, okay? And yeah, they're not going to be able to just take your kids away from you. That's not how that works. And if they're threatening you with not getting a dime, like, you'll never get a dime out of me. If it's a situation where there was a stay-at-home parent and the other parent was the one earning all the money, and the parent earning all the money is threatening the stay-at-home parent with, you'll never get a dime, go talk to a lawyer, because that's very, very rarely going to be the case. Don't believe what the narcissist tells you when they threaten you with what's going to happen if you leave. Don't underestimate them if they're telling you what they're going to do, but don't just take everything they say at face value. Question it, because their threats are meant to control you, are meant to scare you. And usually when they are actually willing to do harmful things to you, or when that's their actual intention, they're usually not going to warn you. So if they're threatening you, those are probably things that they're not really going to do. Now, don't take my word for that. Of course, there are exceptions, but generally, if someone's threatening you, that's probably as far as they intend to go with that. And also, if these threats are threats to your safety, or like serious physical threats, tell someone about this and take these very seriously. If you're separated from this person, don't let them in your house. Don't talk to them. Don't engage. Don't answer messages. The best way to de-escalate these kinds of potentially dangerous situations is to avoid engagement, because every piece of engagement escalates the situation. Sometimes there's nothing you can do but just protect yourself as best you can. Keep your doors locked, get a security system. take different routes to and from work or school or wherever you go. Sometimes you're dealing with someone that is going to just do what they want to do, and all you can do is protect yourself the best you can. But you do have a little bit of control over it by not engaging, by not arguing with them, by not texting them back, by not letting them into your home. Don't agree to meet them for dinner to talk things out. Stop talking to this person. Another way that narcissists might react when you figure them out is just to start lying to you. I knew someone who was married to what I would call a sociopath, like an extreme sociopathic narcissist. And her ex actually told her that he had cancer after she divorced him, or I guess they were going through a divorce. And I think we've all heard lots of stories like this, but I actually knew someone that this happened to. And of course, it came out after a few months of her going to the doctor with him. I don't know if she must have been waiting in the parking lot or something. I don't know how he pulled that off. But after a couple months, he had to come clean and admit that he never had cancer. But you might hear things like, my dog is sick, my aunt died, my dad had a heart attack, or I'm sick, I'm in the hospital, I need you. This can be a really effective manipulation tactic to regain control of you because, nobody wants to ignore someone in their time of need, right? If you find out that your ex has cancer, you don't want to be that cold, mean person that just lets them deal with it on their own. I think it's really, really important to get clear with yourself if this is an abusive relationship and this person has been lying to you or playing games with you. I think it's really important to be very clear with yourself that this is not your friend. This is not someone who calls you when they need help. This is a potentially dangerous person that you are escaping from. So if they call you and tell you that their dog is sick or their aunt died or they're in the hospital, that's not your problem or responsibility. Your first responsibility is to protect yourself. And this is not a safe person, and this is not your friend. If they're calling you about a really serious situation, like if they're threatening you that they're going to harm themselves or somebody else, call the police or maybe call or text a family member of theirs to let them know, and then keep out of it. Wash your hands of people that are actively harming you. It's not your job to take care of them anymore. It's your job to protect yourself from them. You do not owe anything to someone you're trying to escape from, and you are not responsible for their choices or their problems. And it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you cold or uncaring. The only reason they're telling you these things in the first place is because they know that you're a caring person and that it's going to be very hard for you to ignore them. They know it's going to be very hard for you. They already know that you are a caring person. So when they accuse you of being cold and mean, that's just because they're frustrated that their manipulations aren't working on you. They know that you're a caring person, or they wouldn't try to manipulate you in this way in the first place. Another way that narcissists might react when you figure them out is just running away, just disappearing, just dropping off the face of the planet. I think this might happen when they meet someone new or they just don't have any ideas on how to regain control of you. And it's easier to just run away and pretend it never happened and to find some other person that they can control than to try to deal with the way that your exposure of them is making them feel like they don't really have control over everyone in the whole world. Now, if a narcissist does just drop off the face of the planet and run away from you, it doesn't mean that they're never going to come back. It doesn't mean that it's the last you'll ever hear from them. And it doesn't mean that they aren't doing these other things like smear campaigns. It doesn't mean that you're never going to receive any kinds of threats from them. It doesn't mean that they're not going to just call you a year later and tell you that their house burned down or whatever. But it just means that in the moment, they got no other ideas. This is all they got, is just running away and pretending that you don't exist anymore. I don't want to minimize how painful this can be to just be completely discarded, but it's really the best option out of all the ways that a narcissist might react when you figure out what they're really all about. I know it doesn't feel like it, but as long as the narcissist is still trying to regain control of you, it is a daily battle. It's really, really difficult. It's a mind game. And especially if you're trying to recover from a trauma bond, it can be a battle you're fighting every minute of every day, fighting with yourself, arguing with yourself about whether or not you should give them another chance, or fighting the urge to just text them one more text back, or just try to say something to them a different way, inviting them back in, opening that door to let them back in. So if they just disappear and drop off the face of the planet, that can make it a lot easier for you to recover, but I know that it can also be extremely painful. The bottom line is, when you have figured out that you're dealing with somebody who doesn't think the same way you do, somebody who doesn't care about you the way you thought they did, somebody who's been lying to you, manipulating you, using you, exploiting you, it's really important not to underestimate the way that they are going to react to your new clarity, because this is the last thing they ever wanted. And this is someone you really don't know very well. You don't really know what they're capable of, or what lengths they're willing to go to regain control over you. Don't underestimate somebody who has the mentality of an abuser. This is not someone who has normal levels of decency and empathy. Someone who once had control over you through manipulative, dishonest tactics, and now they've lost control of you, could be capable of things that you never dreamed of, things that you would have never imagined they could do. So don't let your guard down. Don't assume that this person is going to be reasonable with you. Don't assume that they have lines that they won't cross. Don't project your sense of decency onto them. They don't think the same way you do. They don't look at you the way you look at them. Their heart is not broken the way that yours might be. They look at you as an object that they own, that they're entitled to, that has been stolen from them. They look at themselves as the victim. So be really careful not to continue on this narrative in your head of them being a friend or an ally, or someone that, okay, yeah, we're going through this bad time, like I found out that they were lying to me or whatever, but if things get really bad, we're still going to be there for each other. No, if this is an abuser, somebody who has abused you and manipulated you, this is not your friend. This is someone you need to separate yourself from as much as you possibly can. Don't make the mistake of thinking that just because you thought you knew this person, just because you spent maybe years getting to know this person, don't make the mistake of thinking that you know what they're capable of now. That just because you had this moment of clarity where you suddenly saw the fraudulence, don't think that you've seen all of it. Don't think that overnight you suddenly now can see the whole picture of who this person is, just because you've gotten this glimpse into this one window of their lies. You don't know anything about this person, really. When you realize that someone close to you that you thought you could trust, that you thought cared about you, has really just been using you, lying to you, exploiting you, abusing you, all you really know is that you really don't know them at all. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.